Now, I gotta ask you something. This is from an old school Reagan Republican figure, and I do have some Democrat leanings. But let me ask you, since 2016, we have been on this weird reversion where we no longer share the same reality. You have come into this delusion that you are superior to everybody else. It's a 70-30 issue. Is you guys gotta hate it because you bring white supremacy into the mix. You guys think that you are superior because you want to make America great. Well, let's really look at that. That is a witch or a sorcerer in the hierarchy, which is that. And if you notice, we live in a strange world. And I don't mean that to be hyperbolic, but if you look at from pre-1945 until now, we are worlds apart. And it started roughly in 1978, under the last few years of the Carter administration. And if you go back a little bit further, it was the 1971, I believe, when we were taken off of the Bretton Woods gold standard system and the petrodollar was born. Well, the petrodollar is either dead or is close to being dead. And it has divided this nation into the rhetoric, the bullshit, the platitudes, all of it over the last 40 or so years. And I believe it was one of the officials from Beijing that said we will wait 100 years to go into Taiwan and take it. 100 years from 1979. That sounds like there's a ticking clock. 1949, that was when Taiwan was constituting itself into an island nation. China sees it as a breakaway province that needs to be brought back under its sphere of influence. Now, they have one thing in Spain that even China doesn't have, and it's respecting them at the moment. You know these phones that we talk on or we make videos and all that other nonsense? Well, there's one place in the entire damn planet that makes them. And they're roughly about 10 to 20 bucks to make, but why are they over $1,000? Because it's a way to sap wealth out of you while keeping an eye on you. So they decided that since we don't have any arable land, so to speak, and we have imported calories and all this other shit, why do we call ourselves concealed? Basically, if they're threatened by, say, the Chinese government, they just hold a gun to the modern economy. It would put us back a decade. It would put the Chinese back a generation. But here's the thing. They know they are patient people. And I mean patient people. So I gotta go take you back a little bit further to the opium wars. When China suffered its century of humiliation under that. They were a self-sufficient nation. We, our mother country, Britain, went in there to try to negotiate a trade deal. Then I believe it was in the late 1800s. They went in there to try to reverse the trade flow back to England from China. because they were getting fined, self-fined, everything, and the elites at that time could not get enough. So they kept sending the silver to China. They put it in the treasury, but they had one thing in spades that the Brits they thought they were a self-sufficient nation. The Brits had to literally go out and take a gun to a knife fight to subjugate other nations. China, on the other hand, had everything in-house. And the Brits were literally trying to figure out a way to make the Chinese submit. The Brits, on the other hand, could not figure out any way, no matter how much often they said to the Chinese. The Chinese said no, 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 but the Brits figured out one way. The Brits figured out how to import opium to the plant on the threat of their military at that time was a really big backwater Navy at that time. They are more of a modern Navy than the U.S. Navy. They are building ships faster than on the same level as we did during the rollout of World War II, wartime production. We build one ship, they build 3 to 5, depending on the day. Those are facts, not hyperbole. And they're doing a slow fleet. It's not a fast thing. And they know how to hide in plain sight. I'll use the tortoise and the hare example or analogy. The tortoise slow and steady wins the race, or in operational terms, slow mission creep. And Maggot, you had no idea how they're playing a multi-faceted 8-week chess game while we're playing checkers. So we're going to get our divine spanking one way or another. And it is not through the demented blob that sits in the White House. There is an order up above us that, if I could put it in human terms, created us. They know how to influence things, because I had heard reports, and I thought it was nonsense, that 9 nuclear nations had their nuclear tipped submarines turned off. Yeah, they all had their own domestic populations that had to give domestic consumption, but privately on the back channel, they were scared. So they were talking with one another on the back channels because we knew that how can we keep this rate up long enough? Anyway, how does this compete to a divided nation? A divided nation falls. And I use the Abraham Lincoln speech, and I know Abraham Lincoln. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And what I'm driving at with all this rambling of a 43-year-old with Parkinson's is we are on the verge of losing this country. And it will be on this a bureaucratic baloney, let's say that we will not be able to meet the threat because, number one, we poured into Ukraine, we poured into other fires, and the U.S. government is on its own accord other powers, but take the Iranian conflict. The Iranian conflict, they were using 20 to $50,000 Shahid drones. That's like pocket change compared to our $1.3 million interceptor. We were humiliatingly went to Ukraine after we embarrassed the fucking shit out of them in our Oval Office. But they understood something that we did not. They understood that we have to fight as one united, not divided, not groups, etc. We have to fight as one, or otherwise we will all suffer. Now, I know I probably sound like I'm just the rantings of a madman in the digital wilderness, but Babylon, the United States, will fall, and it will fall soon. Now, what comes after it, I don't know. And whoever comes across this post, understand greatly. They can give you all the platitudes they want. They can give it to you all they want, but the odds are so stacked against the United States. Now, if I were going to short the next war, do a big short on the next war, I would literally be betting on China or the other powers. I would not be betting on my own government, because odds-wise, we will lose, and we will lose bigly. And here at home, we are divided from red states to blue states, red counties to blue counties. We need to put aside our differences. That is the last domino to fall. And the foreign powers have been playing a monumental game of 8D chess while we're playing maybe 1D chess. So if you like what I do, like, share,